Live. Did you just get another text? I heard a bell or something.
I did.
Okay. Watch Spirit Mail Thursday Night Live with Vanessa Brooks. That's why I just decided to call it Thursday Night Live.
Love it.
We're going live. Okay. I just muted us. Mute. And got to turn this down. And we should be live like pretty quick. Oh, 16 people already. Hey, True Good News. Hey, Kelly, how are you doing? We're going to be talking to Kelly a little later this week when he gets us the time that he's going to be available. Hey, Raven, awesome. It's good to see you. I'm so excited that you're here. Let's see. Let me go back to Zoom so I can find you. Y'all say hi. We got 26 people in the room already. Y'all say hi, hello. Wow. It's good to see y'all.
Hey, y'all.
Cancel. Okay. All right. So it is Thursday. Hi, Lisa. Good to see you. Dawn. Hi. Kathy. Hello. Mellow Yellow. Good to see you back. Lisa Cooley. Oh, hello again. Aquarius here. Peggy, it's good to see you too. Amanda. Nice to see you. Jacqueline. Hi. LaShawn. Hi. Lisa said hello 3 times. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
Guys, I am so excited to see y'all. I am so excited to have, hi, Aaron, Amanda, Dawn, and Raven. I'm so excited to have Vanessa back. And if y'all saw, the first person that popped in the room was Kelly from the True Good News. He's going to be visiting with us again one night or something over the next few days. We're going to jump back on and have another conversation with him too. Julian says hello. Hello, Julian. Hello, Amanda. Thank you, Amanda. That's very sweet of you. Andrea, hi. Manon, hi. Julian, hi. It's good to see y'all. I'm glad everybody's saying hello. My daughter just texted me, sent me a text and said, can you please text me and see if my phone's working? I'm doing a live. Hello. Okay, so I am going to text her when you start talking. I'm just going to tell y'all we're back again with Vanessa. This week I was following her on Facebook and she did a video on the power of the subconscious mind. And it reminded me of, and I've referred him to y'all or referred y'all to his work before, Dr. Joseph Murphy, who I absolutely love. And I said, wow, Vanessa, that was such a great talk on the power of the subconscious mind. Do you know Dr. Murphy, Dr. Joseph Murphy? And she says, I love his work. So there we go. It's like the same thing we've got going on here. So if you want to go ahead and maybe start talking a little bit about that, and I'll kind of watch for questions and I might jump in and say, hey, wait a minute, I want to say something. You know how I am.
Absolutely. First of all, I got to say, as only I can, hey, y'all.
Hey, y'all. I say it all the time.
You do too. Okay. So, yes, I absolutely love everything about the subconscious mind and the subconscious brain. I don't know about you guys, but for all my life, or for a great deal of my adult life, rather, I found myself in seasons of just being stuck.
Yeah.
Like stuck like Chuck. You know, just repeating cycle after cycle after cycle, repeating patterns of behavior, repeating patterns of thoughts, things that I didn't want to go through again, things that I thought I had ridded myself of, but they kept coming back around. Like, you know how we have seasons? Well, these cycles just kept returning to my life. Y'all know I'm a church girl, been a church girl all my life. Not right now though, but I've been a church girl all my life. And so I prayed and I fasted and I called on the name of the Lord, y'all, because that's what I was trained and taught to do. And I'm not belittling that process, because there's a time and space for prayer. I believe in the power of prayer. Don't get me wrong. I believe in the power of, you know, the word. But those things just were not helping. And so I finally said, okay, something it's obviously something I don't know. Well, y'all are gonna probably laugh at me, but I didn't know anything about The Secret until about 3 years ago. I don't know where I was in 2006, 7, 8 when it came out. I must have been sitting at church.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about The Secret either till about 3 years ago.
You didn't know either?
That's correct.
Wow. So I didn't know anything about The Secret. I missed the whole secret craze. I was probably sitting in church in revival or something. But somebody mentioned it in a conversation, and I thought, what the heck is The Secret? Well, I Googled The Secret, and from there, the rabbit hole stopped. I mean, the rabbit hole started, and it still hasn't stopped yet.
Right.
It was through me watching The Secret and learning about the law of attraction, which again, I had not heard of before. I'm sorry. I've been so sheltered.
Can I stop you for just a
yes.
second? Okay,
Yes.
I actually did hear about The Secret before 3 years ago, but
Okay.
when I heard about it, I also was, I think, still in church at that time on the tail end of it. And it was told that it was evil. It was against God's.
I'm sure.
That's what
I'm
that's
sure.
what I was told in the women's group, I think, that I was in, that it was against God's teaching and we should not mess with it. So I was obedient until 3 years ago.
Okay. Well, I had never heard of it at all.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, everything's against God's teaching in the church. But anyway, all right. Reel it in, Vanessa. So because my mind works the way it works, I watched The Secret. I read about the law of attraction. I was fascinated with it. I found a podcast teacher who was a beautiful teacher, but my mind said something about this still sounds too good to be true. Because The Secret presentation was, if you think it and visualize it, you can have anything you want. Well, I spent several weeks, Sheryl, sitting there thinking and visualizing and doing affirmations. I won't manifest in a doggone thing. And so I said, there's something that they're not telling everything. There's something missing. And so at that time I was in grad school and I had started doing studies on Sigmund Freud. Y'all know Sigmund Freud, the psychoanalyst. And I was reading about the subconscious mind and the unconscious mind. And I thought, that's interesting. So that's what started this whole thing for me. I began to study it, and it came back to my awareness. I think we all knew that we had a subconscious mind, but just hadn't thought about it. And at that moment, the light bulb came on. And despite what the church says, these teachings actually are very much God inspired.
Well, you know what? When you stop and think about it, Jesus basically taught the same thing. And because he said we reap what we sow. So when we sow good thoughts and good ideas and good inspirations into our mind and our heart, we reap those things. And that's what The Secret is teaching. The other thing that I saw about that, or that I thought about that, is, they talk about positive thinking, and it's in Philippians 4:8, I think, where whatsoever things are good and true and
true. Yes.
On those,
meditate on these things. Yes. So the concepts are very much scriptural.
Yeah.
They may not package it as such,
right?
Because they're trying to reach the masses.
Right.
Yeah, they're trying to reach masses. And so from there, I began to understand why I wasn't manifesting. It was because of my subconscious programming. It was because of the subconscious thoughts and memories and emotions and traumas and experiences that my subconscious mind had held on to, not for just a couple of years, for my entire life. Mm-hmm. I realized that from birth to age 8, when the brain is the most, it's in its most unconscious state, that I had soaked in a lot of limiting beliefs that traveled with me throughout puberty, adolescence, early adulthood, and even to my present state. And so I realized that's what was causing me to not manifest all of these things on my wish list. And to be honest, when I first started this, I wasn't trying to manifest money in a house and a car, because those things, we all like nice things, but honestly, when you're going through an evolution of your soul, those things don't matter a whole lot.
Right.
I wanted my soul to be whole. You know, I had some trauma in the soulish realm that I needed to be whole. And so I realized why they were not why it wasn't manifesting. So I started to do a lot of what I call inner healing work, which is why I ended up becoming an inner healing, practitioner, because I think we should always be our first customer or client. And so I had to go deep inside the portals of my subconscious mind. Now, this is how I explain it to my clients. I want y'all to visualize this, right? If you were to, in your mind's eye, I want you to envision a huge, massive room, probably the size of a football stadium. I want y'all to envision that. If you're doing it online, type, you see the room. All right. And in this room, it's a filing room, and it's got thousands and thousands of filing cabinets. And inside the drawers of those filing cabinets are all of our subconscious thoughts, memories, experiences, emotions, traumas, beliefs. They're in the cabinet and they're filed away. And your brain partners with you. And anytime you need to be reminded of those limiting thoughts and beliefs, your brain is going to take you to that massive filing room, and it's going to help you find a file that matches what you're feeling. So what happens is we're now making decisions from the filing system, from the filing cabinet.
Based on past
experiences. So when something happens in our life and the impulses in our brain start to work and says, this reminds me of what happened 10 years ago. Let me go find the file, the thought, the memory, the emotion that matches that. So guess what I'm going to do, Sheryl? I'm going to make a decision that matches that past experience. And then we wonder why we get stuck. And so when people say I'm stuck and they try to do all these external things to get unstuck and it doesn't work, you're not going to get unstuck until you do the inner work.
Right.
Right. And
we don't have to do it by ourselves.
Ma'am?
We don't have to do it by ourselves. Spirit is there to help us do
it. Spirit is there to help us, because that was my other issue. I got very overwhelmed at the thought of having to sit there with myself and process through all of these memories. But I need y'all to understand, even the scripture, for those that haven't detached and maybe you're not evolving, I don't know what your spiritual beliefs are, but if you do need, reassurance, even the Bible lets us know we have angels that can be dispatched to help us. They are ministering spirits, right? They minister to us. They do. And they remind us. And so what happens is, and I think we might have talked about this last week, and I know I was watching your video with the young lady, the doctor, when you guys were discussing past life regression. And I think that's some of it too. I think I think I'm not an expert. I think we bring those past life thoughts and memories over into our present reality. And so we're having to process through all of that. I talked about another video I did. I talked about womb trauma, so ancestral trauma. I think all of those things are real. And if you study epigenetics, you find out that trauma, it does, it travels through the placenta of a mom, and the things that she and her mom were predisposed to, those things can travel across the placenta and enter into the unborn baby. And so we're born with all these, these additional traumas as well. So when you factor in all of that and you're trying to manifest and it's not happening, you got to understand why it's not. And I think as beautiful as this secret was, she made all the money, not me. So she did something right. But I think it disappointed a lot of people as well too. And I think unfortunately, I think it got so commercialized that I think it led some people astray. clearly there are people who've manifested using her process.
Right.
But for a lot of people, they didn't manifest and they didn't understand why. And I think they need to understand this is the power of belief, y'all.
Right. So it's you know, the talking about the stuff coming from past lives and ancestors and stuff like that, you know, it's consciousness goes from the male into the woman too, in the sperm. The consciousness is in there. So sex actually is more than just a soul tie. It's like a soul bonding between the two. So but the other thing is that, so we have all that stuff, and whenever we're born and we're growing up, we're taught brush your teeth, wash your hair, clean your body, but we're not taught clear out that inside stuff.
Yes.
And that's just as important, to clear it and release it, you know, as much as we bathe or brush our teeth.
Absolutely. Yes.
It's an ongoing journey. That's how I feel. And I don't mean sit down and meditate for 5 hours and say, oh God, please remove this stuff from me. I mean, be responsible. Okay, God, I don't need this other stuff. Let's take it away. Whatever's not of you, whatever's not for me in this day going forward, I release it, and then move forward. Forget about it, because whenever we say take it, they take it.
Yes.
Right?
Immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately. And so no, it's not. And this is why we tell people this is work that can be done relatively quickly, immediately. You know, the biggest part is there has to be a readiness and a desire and a want to release, because a lot of times, because of how the brain is programmed, we tend, and this is what I learned about the brain doesn't like to be released from stuff. Did y'all know that?
Right. The brain
doesn't want to break habits. The brain likes to do the same thing over and over again. And so this is why people have a hard time breaking habits like smoking or drinking, and I'm not saying not to do those things, but I'm saying addictions become difficult for people because the brain doesn't like to learn anything new. It doesn't want any new experiences. So in that regard, you are going to have to practice discipline, because you can say today, I want to be released from this thing. However, and Joseph Murray talks about this in his book, The Power of the Subconscious Mind too, where you really have to understand the power of repetition. Like you're going to have to do affirmations, and you're going to have to repeat these thoughts over and over again in order to reframe and rewire the brain. Right. If that makes sense, right?
Because you make those little neurons connect.
Yeah, come on.
How does, what's his name? Joe
Dispenza, yeah.
What grows together stays together, or
stays
something
together. Like brain cells that wire together, fire together, fire together. Yes. And that is how we get new experiences, y'all. Right. So for all the people all around the world who go, I just can't get, everything, nothing's changing, and I don't know how to do it. Well, I'm going to tell you why nothing's changing. Because the brain has trillions of miles of wiring, and the brain has action potentials, like limitless action potentials. But if you don't connect those, make those synaptic connections, and if you don't get those connections in your brain, it's not going to know to do anything different. So we really can have, and that sounds a little woo-woo, but we really can have whatever we want if we're willing to go do the inner work and get the process complete. You really can manifest what you want, but you got to get your subconscious programming at a place where you're attracting what your subconscious thoughts are aligned with, and not just what you want. Because people think they think if they just want something that the universe is going to bring it to them, but it doesn't work like that, because thoughts are energies.
Right. That's right. So one of the things, and I love Dr. Joe Dispenza. I don't follow him much anymore because I feel like he has gotten very commercialized. That's my personal opinion. But when he first started, I loved him. I still love him, but yeah, I think his processes are way too long. I'm just going to tell y'all right here, life is not that hard. God did not intend you to have to meditate for 5 hours a day
I
and
don't have time for that.
8 cartwheels and 12 back bends to be able to reach him. It's a sincere heart and a sincere desire that reaches. And whenever I say him, I mean it, the creator, God.
The energy of God.
That's right,
Yeah.
the energy of God.
The energy of
But
God.
one of the tricks that he talked about in the early days that I absolutely love is called pattern interrupt. We have more than 70,000 thoughts a minute, I think it is.
Absolutely.
That we're not even aware of. So we get up every morning and roll out of bed on the same side of the bed. We get up, we go sit on the commode, then we get up, we wash our hands, then we brush our teeth, then we go get a cup of coffee or whatever our routine is. We do the same thing every day.
Yes.
So interrupt that pattern, and instead of getting out on the same side of the bed, roll over your partner, say, I'm interrupting my patterns, I want out on your side, and just change up your patterns, because it sets this thing off. And
absolutely,
the more we set it off, I think the more we can set it off, the more power we can take back.
I agree.
The ordinary.
I agree, because the average person, the average person doesn't have time to to sit in a cabin somewhere, in a retreat in a mountain somewhere, and just kind of like zone out into a meditative trance. If you have that kind of time, hey, I ain't mad at you.
Right.
I ain't got that kind of time.
Right.
and the way my short attention span is set up, it wouldn't work for me anyway. Right. So I have to find the concise way to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that the whole thing of it is when we can get back in touch with our creator. And again, like you, I'm not talking about like a deity or a statue god or anything, but when we can get back in touch with our original design, and how spirit made us, how this life force, this super conscious, this infinite source that we call God, when we can understand that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, when we can understand how we were originally designed to function in life, and just began to align ourselves with that design, it really isn't going to take a long time to make these changes in our life. But now there is something called ego that we got to deal with. There is something called that inner voice sometimes that wants to try to become the god of your life, and so you have to deal with that. But it really is not that difficult to reprogram that subconscious thinking.
No, because like I said, it's something like interrupting a pattern. It could be something as easy as, if you do it regularly on your way to work, cut a block off, or go turn right instead of going straight, and just
exactly
take a little detour around a different block. Little tiny pattern interrupts. I want to go to the questions real quick, please, Vanessa.
Okay.
And the true good news, Kelly's up here. He's saying, whether you say you can or you can't, you're right, and it's true. And he said other eyes to see refers to the mind's eye. But I have a question up here. Kathy Shabby Shack Jude, how do you rid yourself from the programming of your parents to be your true self? The intent is still there for us to move on and be our true self. But wait, she has another question. Her other question is, and do we have to carry the mishaps of past family in our journey to better our own self? Because I don't get that. When we haven't done anything wrong, why would we have to carry the mishaps of our ancestors?
Well, that's a great question. And I'm just going to share my journey and what has worked for me and what has helped me.
Okay.
When I say these next statements, I want y'all to understand, my parents are both deceased and they're not here to, I love my parents. And I think we have to, understand that with every generation, parenting is going to evolve.
Yes.
And our parents they raised us probably how they were raised. I raised my kids how I was raised. So we're not here to like point the finger or blame parents, because at some point you have to take responsibility for yourself when you become an adult. However, having said that, We do need to understand the ancestral trauma. I believe that it's real. I was reading this really wonderful article, and it talked about, if you think about it, especially for the woman. So when a baby is born, you know, or even before the baby is fully formed in the womb of their mom, that female baby has all the eggs in her body that she's going to have, right? So while she's in her mother's womb, so for example, with my mom, while she was in her mom's womb, I was in the womb with them, right? So that means that now that we understand through epigenetics that the trauma and the emotions and all that stuff, that it comes through the placenta, I understand that some of the things that I manifest today in my attitude and my personality, my characteristics, some of those things belong to me genetically. Some of those things belong to me because I inherited them through placenta transfer. So what I've had to do was just kind of sit down and talk to spirit. You know, I love counseling, coaching, all that stuff, but sometimes you got to do this work with you and God and the angel team that you have, because I was tired of, again, going through the same thing and hearing people say the same things about me. When people say the same thing about you all the time, it's probably some stuff you need to take a look at. So why was I easily offended? I'm being really transparent, y'all. I was very, easily offended, very sensitive. Some of that's because I'm an empath, but that wasn't all of it. I realized that some of it was because of trauma from the womb. I understood because God rest my father's soul. I love him. I forgave him, but he wasn't that kind to my mom. Right. You know, he was abusive. We wouldn't have called it that back in the day, but now that we've evolved, we can call it that. He was a heavy drinker. He was abusive. He wasn't respectful of her. I believe she was traumatized when I was conceived. By the time I was born, she was always sick. She died at a relatively young age after having 9 children. So I believe that some of that trauma I inherited from her. So I've had to release that trauma from my life. I've had to release the energies that my father, released upon my mom, because I saw myself manifesting and acting out. You know, part of me was angry at my dad. Part of me was angry that my mom took his crap. And if my family watches this video, I love y'all for real. Yeah, this is like a therapy sofa for me. This spirit mail is where I come get my therapy, y'all.
You know, and so our families don't like our stuff out there.
They don't like our stuff because I tell too much, you know, but I try to do it in a respectful way. But so I had a lot of trauma that I received, as a child, that I had to release. So part of that releasing for me was forgiveness, and I'm not talking about that religious forgiveness that we're taught in church. I wasn't trying to forgive because I didn't want to go to hell. Like, not that kind of forgiveness. Like, I'm talking about where everything in my soul had to forgive my father. I had to release him from out of my soul. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't think we have to carry the shame and the guilt and the burdens that our parents had. We have to release ourselves from that if we're going to go forward. So it's just a matter really of sitting down and trying to remember. Y'all, a lot of stuff we be forgetting on purpose. We have amnesia because we've suppressed stuff. We've suppressed memories. We've pushed memories back. So a lot of that, where meditation does help, is you sitting still long enough to look at the darkness of your life.
Okay, so I have a question with what you just said.
Okay.
A lot of us have suppressed memories that we don't even want to look at, that we don't, they're going way down there. So whenever my daughter was molested and I brought her to the counselor for the first time, I went in and saw him before I brought her in, and he said, "What is your goal?" I said, "My goal is to have her not be a victim." I don't even want her to be a survivor. I don't want her to label herself. I want her to be a productive citizen. I know she can't act like this never happened, but I want it to be a footnote, not a chapter in her life. And so he said, okay, he says, but let me tell you, I'm going to warn you right now. Usually whenever something like this happens, I'm just telling you, during the process, you're going to have a memory triggered where something has happened to you. It's likely going to happen. I'm just warning you. So when we left that day, she was sitting in the back seat and I was driving, and to myself, I said, okay, God, if it's going to benefit anybody for me to remember, then I'm willing to remember. But if it's not going to benefit anybody for me to remember, just take it. I don't need it. I need to be healthy so I can help. So, and I've never had a memory. I've had a few little things, but nothing major traumatic like what happened to her.
Right.
So yeah. So do you believe God can literally take, I say God, the creator spirit can literally take it from us without us having to look at it?
I think God can do whatever God wants to do, clearly.
Me too.
I think the counselor, the therapist in me, y'all know I'm a therapist major. 3 more months, I'm done. I can't wait, y'all. I think the therapist in me perhaps would say, in a lot of cases, not all of them, but I think in a great deal of cases, I think it would behoove people to have that hard conversation with themselves.
Yeah.
And look at, because again, we're talking about the subconscious mind. And I think one of the reasons why it's good to look at the dark stuff that we don't want to think about is because unless God does supernaturally erase it, it's still there.
Right.
Whether we remember it or not, the memory itself is encoded in the brain.
Right.
At a cellular level, unless God does remove it, which is possible. So I think it would be a proactive thing for people to say, let me try to remember the root of my pain so I can erase the hard drive, because I see the brain as a hard drive, right? So I think in a lot of cases, we do need to remember. I realized that there was a lot of things that I had suppressed. You know, some things I don't remember, but a lot of things I had to remember if I was going to figure out why I came here. These lessons that we came here to learn, we can't learn them if memories are just all going to be suppressed and wiped away. Right. I think learning lessons also means sometimes I gotta look. And us coming out of the church, little church girls, me and you little church girls, it's always about the light, the light, the light. Jesus is the light of the world. We just all want the light. But because I understand the law of polarization, darkness is just a low degree of the light. And sometimes we got to be willing to sit in the dark and look at the shadowy dark stuff. Sometimes we got to do that, because if you can survive the darkness of who you are, you're going to be fine with the light stuff. But if you can survive the darkness of your past and the dark stuff that's in your soul, if you can come to some type of reconciliation with that, you can move forward. Yeah. So I think a lot of times, I think we do have to look at the hard stuff. Yeah. Well, to understand why if we're going to break cycles, because to me, it's about breaking cycles. We talked a lot about cycle breakers and stuff, but you really can't break cycles if you don't even know what's caused you to be in that cycle over and over again, if that makes sense. Right. Well, I'll tell you this. I do know God, spirit, who, my God, whoever it was, they're not afraid to tell me the bad stuff, the dark stuff about me either, because I think I tell you this, they in fact told me, Sheryl, you were never abused. If there was an abuser, it was you. And they showed me. Yeah. They showed me what they were talking about. That was part, see that sign back there? Let's let bygones be bygones. That was part of my healing. That was the first time I ever went to see a medium, because I needed to make peace
with that first husband that I was so abusive with, that was now dead. I didn't kill
Yeah.
him, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, the spirit, I say that a lot. Spirit's not going to always tell us what we want to hear, but they're always going to be loving. And they're
Yes.
always going to say it in a way that we can accept it, and it'll help lift us up when we address it.
For our good. Let me tell you something. When I was a pastor, I'd like to think I was a good pastor, not a perfect pastor, but my heart for the people was probably as perfect as it could be in the flesh. However, there was this, and I'm going to go somewhere with this, and just give me 2 seconds to say this. There was this pattern, this cycle, Sheryl, where I swear in the church with, I'd get members and we developed this really great relationship. I had a small ministry, so I was able to be really like, it was a family oriented church.
Yeah.
Right. We was just, and so I'd get so close to the parishioners and they'd love me and I'd love them. They'd come to my house and I'd go to their 5-year-old kids' graduation and we do all these wonderful, beautiful things, honey, just family church. But then 6 months, 9 months, a year into it, they'd get sick of me in the church and they'd be gone. Well, this was just a cycle, just a cycle, just a cycle, just a cycle, just a cycle. And I finally just cried out to Spirit one day. I mean, I cried. And I was like, what the heck is going on? Why can't I maintain these relationships? 2 reasons is what he told me. She, he, whatever. One, you're doing too much, because I didn't tell you to do all that.
I was going to say that.
I didn't tell you to do all that. I just told you to feed my sheep. You tried to adopt my sheep and become their savior.
That's right.
Well, no, I didn't. Yes, you did. And then the second hardest thing that Spirit said to me is because of your own rejection issues that you're trying to make this church, you're trying to overcompensate for what you're lacking in your life, for not feeling necessarily close enough with your own family. You're trying to reenact that through this ministry. Oh, it hurt my feelings so bad. It hurt my feelings so, but let me tell you something, guys. If you want to live your best life, and if you want to be free and not have all this stuff hanging over you, you got to have those hard conversations with Spirit. You just got to be willing to hear. And a lot of people, and this is one of the things that I found in church, we just abuse the devil. We abuse the devil. Whatever the devil is, whoever the devil might be, I don't believe in a literal devil anymore. I did it one time. But whatever the devil is, whatever that energy source is, we abused it. And we did that because we didn't want to deal with our stuff. So religion gave us a devil. One of the worst things religion could have ever done for us, y'all, was give us a devil. I don't know about y'all, but I had to give the devil back. Because the devil, the whole concept of the devil was keeping Vanessa from dealing with her stuff. And if I was going to break these cycles and save my heart, because my heart, I was dying. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? If you're not careful, you're going to kill your own self. I was killing myself with all of the heartbreak. My heart chakra was probably on overload, because at that time I didn't know what a heart chakra was. So I really had closed up. I was killing myself slowly and didn't understand why. And so you got to be, and that's why I say, if you're going to work with this subconscious mind, that means you got to look at what programming is in the subconscious mind. So when the Spirit showed me the 8-year-old little girl that remembered the first time she felt rejection, 8 years old, it's the 4th of July, it's hot, I'm from the South, it was about 97,000 degrees. But me trying to be this independent 8-year-old little girl, I decided I was going to find my own clothes to wear, because we were going to have this huge party at my house. And I found my own clothes. I washed my own clothes, y'all, because back in the day, we didn't have like a washing machine. I'm from the country. We washed our clothes by hand and we hung them up on the line. the clothesline. Y'all know nothing about that. But anyway, I was,
There's a lot of people on here that's our age. They know. Go ahead.
Y'all know old school. So I hung these clothes out. They were hot. I don't know why I picked that hot outfit to wear in the dead of the summertime, but I did. And I made a grand entrance in front of my family, and they laughed at me. They didn't mean any harm. It's not their fault. They laughed. They was like, what do you have on? I had on some hooded something, some sweatsuits kind of thing, corduroy pants. It was just a hot mess. But at that moment, I remember feeling like a little idiot. I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember the shame that I felt and the embarrassment and the humiliation. So what I'm saying to you guys is, when you start to retrace your steps and find out where these voids came from, you'll begin to figure out why you keep making these same decisions and repeating these cycles. So when I became a pastor, I think it was a subliminal part of me still trying to find a level of acceptance. Right. You know what I'm saying? A place to feel I was gifted, quote unquote, anointed. I didn't do it for that, but I think subconsciously, this was my way to get the acceptance that I didn't have as a child and as an adult. That's not to say my parents didn't love me. I know they did, but this is the stuff that we feel inside. And nobody can really affect how a person feels inside. You can love somebody to the best of your ability, but if there's something going inside of them, you can't control that. So I remember the voids that I was collecting over time. And so we do things subconsciously to try to fill those voids when we need to learn how to reparent that inner child. I didn't know nothing about that. So that's why I say, I think it's important to look at the dark stuff. When I closed the church and I took that year off, I had a whole year to just kind of introspect and reflect and look within and try to figure out, what the heck had I been doing for the past 13 years? Like, how did my good end up being so painful? I'm doing good work. Why is it painful? Right. But you got to look at why you're doing what you're doing. Right. You understand what I'm saying? And I should have gotten healed before trying to pastor. You know what I'm saying? So I think subconscious work is that important, because if we don't do the subconscious work, we're going to end up getting hooked up in some stuff that may cause us even a more additional pain than if we do the work, ahead of time. Now I could probably go pastor a church and be good to go. I don't want to, but I could. So yeah.
Okay, so Beverly Rowe.
Oh, somebody mentioned the word akashic. Oh my God. Okay, I'm sorry. I got sidetracked.
Beverly Rowe says, I disagree. And I'm not sure what about, except that she goes on. So maybe we'll find out what about here. A trauma usually reappears, so a person needs to face her own fears. Fears or phobias to overcome the anxieties. Overcoming those has a process. Okay, were we talking, does that, I'm not real sure I know what we're talking about.
I'm reading it now. Trauma usually reappears, a person needs to face their phobia to overcome them.
Maybe she's saying that, like, whenever the doctor told me that I would possibly have a memory triggered. And I said, God, if it's going to benefit anybody, okay, I'm willing to do that. But if it's not going to benefit anybody, take it. Maybe that's what you're talking about, Beverly. Can you tell us what you disagree about? And while she's doing that, we're going to go back to, and I might have missed some. Y'all make sure y'all put lots of question marks so we can determine which are the question marks. It's true. We all have our own journey. I'm a bereaved mom and felt punished too. Hugs, mama. Okay, so yeah, so somebody wanted to know earlier, is their baby being taken away from them punishment? Here it is. But does that mean they took my baby as well as a punishment?
Who took the baby?
For me to wake up? Was it for crafty ass Shabby Shack Jude? she's wondering if spirit took her baby to wake her up. Like, was that a way for spirit to wake her up by taking her baby away?
Now, let me ask a question. When you say took the baby away, did she have a miscarriage, or did her baby pass away after being born? Can we get some clarity on that?
Yeah, get some clarity on that. And Erin says, it's true, we all have our own journey, and she's a bereaved mom, and she felt punished too, and I'm assuming when her baby passed away. So, and those are really tough questions for me to even consider, because again, and we had this conversation earlier, I feel like there's spirit guides and angels that we speak to, but God is an energy. I don't feel like God is a man sitting on a cloud rewarding and punishing.
I don't either.
And I think some things are just acts of nature. Some things are acts of other people's free will. And I feel like I can't imagine serving a God that would punish a woman by killing her baby.
One of the reasons I walked away from Christianity is because it dawned on me that the God that Christianity offers is that type of God.
He punishes a lot of stuff, yes. And that's why I said that. And that's hard when you come from the church or from that background. We had this conversation just before we got online. I was telling you the last couple of days, I've been doing a lot of introspection. Sheryl, what are you doing with that inner thought? And I said, I realized that even though I know in my mind that God is not a man sitting on a cloud, I know that. I've known it for a very, very long time. Even though I know that, there's a part of me that's still waiting on God to do something in my life. Yeah. And it occurred to me yesterday, God, who's the energy. That the universal intelligence that created everything is waiting on me.
It's waiting for
to make a decision.
Absolutely. So here's my answer to her question, and it's a very valid question.
It's a very valid question.
It's very valid, and it's one of the things the church needs to get reform on is answering questions like this. And so this is the conclusion that I've come to, which is very similar to what you just said. And I think it's taken us all of these years to kind of work through our beliefs, because our beliefs have been a little psychotic. But learning the universal laws and learning how this universe functions is going to be a perfect way to answer these kind of difficult questions. Yeah. First of all, you're so right. And I hope everybody can at least consider processing what you just said. The first thing that we've got to do, and I'm not telling people what to believe, but this is what I believe. We got to stop humanizing God.
Yes.
Very dangerous. It's a very dangerous, and the Abrahamic religions are really the only religions that they humanize God. I think it's called anthropomorphic or something, where you turn God into like this human being type of God. It's very dangerous. And the scriptures is responsible because it keeps talking about he. So if you can, if
jealous God, and he's an angry God,
all that stuff is very dangerous to the psyche. So for the woman that asked the question, my first thing would be exactly what Sheryl said. Try to go into your secret closet, quote unquote, and detach from this idea that God is this angry human that punishes people. The second piece of it is also what Sheryl said. And I just want to expand on that. We're all energy. Everything in the universe is energy. Spirit or energy, whatever you want to call it, it's the same thing. And so everything has energy in it. Now, here's what we got to understand. There's something called collective consciousness. So we got, how many people did you see on the video last night? 7.8 billion people, or 8 billion people that's in the earth.
7.8 billion people on the planet, yes.
Well, that's a lot of thoughts traveling throughout the universe, y'all. So if you got people in the universe who are low vibrational in their thinking, and they're thinking about depression, they're thinking about sickness, and they're thinking about death, and they're harboring low vibrational emotions such as unforgiveness and anger and hatred. Well, guys, when you understand that all of these emotions and feelings are vibrations in the universe that attract to each other, that's going to cause a spontaneous combustion in our universe. And it's going to manifest in sickness and disease and death and poverty. And it's not fair to the human mind. It doesn't seem fair, but this is the way it works. And this is why all of us need to learn the power of love and getting ourselves on that frequency of love. We got to get away from the hate and the division and all of these low vibrational frequencies, because that's what manifests hurricanes and tornadoes. The universe responds to us, y'all. You know why? Because we're not separate from the universe. It's not us and the universe. We are a collective. We are, we are a macrocosm is the universe, and we're a microcosm. So we are connected to this universe. So the universe, nature, is responding to the collective energy of all of us. Right. And that's where these terrible things like the death of babies, and that's where that stuff comes from. But this is what I just heard. If I can release this, and now, you can decide if you want to receive it. But the beautiful thing is, the baby that you lost returned back to source. And in another time, in another dimension, because the universe is multidimensional, and this is just one phase of your life, I do believe that there'll be a reconnecting and a reunion, if you want to call it that.
Okay, because now I'm a step further and say you don't have to wait till another time in another life, because that baby, in my opinion, is actually right here.
Oh yeah, because we don't die.
Right, because we don't die. And Aaron Chandler, you're on this channel. Can you just type in yes if you're the one who sent me the email, because I wanted to email you back if you're the one who has the ministry, so to speak, where you speak. She also lost a child, and she's with mothers and stuff like that, who she speaks to children all the time that are on the other side. Medium. And I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you have more to say? Because I wanted to get back.
No, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine.
So okay, so back up here, Nina wanted to know, I think it was Nina Vasquez who asked, could I talk about why do I say God's not in the clouds? What I said is, God is not a man sitting on a cloud waiting to punish and reward people. And this is Sheryl talking based on my experience and the things that I feel like God has showed me.
Right.
He, and I always say he, but that's 30 something years of being in church. He is not a man sitting on a cloud. He's energy. He is in all things. He is in, all around, and through everything. This coffee cup, believe it or not,
is God.
Has God in it also. TA wanted to, that is Sheryl's.
And can I take your thought to just expand it a little bit? And this may sound even more heretical. Probably shouldn't say it, but in all actuality, we have to embrace our own divinity.
Absolutely.
We have to embrace that we are gods.
God is in it. Absolutely. That's in the scripture.
That Jesus said that.
Yeah. He said to the Pharisees, do your scriptures not tell you that ye yourself
are gods? We're not the infinite intelligence that we're not intelligence. Right.
But we are part of that. We are part of that God source. And TA asked, is God punishing, or is that just the price of sin? So TA, again, there's no God punishing. Okay, so God, whenever God created the heavens and the earth, the universe, the multiverses, my understanding is whenever that happened, there were universal laws put in place. And when when they talked about Jesus, they talked about him as a young boy, and then they talked about him as a 33-year-old who started his ministry, or 30-year-old. I don't remember exactly how old. But there's a lot of years missing, right? Okay, so, but he starts out as this young kid learning the Jewish religion. And then when he comes back, he's preaching against that Jewish religion. So this time period that he was gone, there's different opinions about what went on. But what I see Jesus saying is, this work that you see me do, it's not me, it's my Father in me. Just like what Vanessa said just a second ago, it's my Father in me. And where there is love, my Father lives there also. So when we walk in love, we have a pure heart, an authentic heart. God is in us. So there are these laws like reaping and sowing, the law of polarity, the law of reciprocity, all these universal laws. So whenever you say, is God punishing us, or is that just the price of sin? It's got something to do normally with your, like if we do something that we define as sin, we're going to feel guilty and carry guilt, and we're going to attract the punishment into our lives. God's not sitting up there doing that. It's us doing it to ourselves. But even the word sin only means missing the mark.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean you did something against God's will. God has universal laws.
And but that's the deep intrinsic indoctrination that we're going to have to work through in order to see this universe evolve into a higher state of consciousness. This is the work that's set before us, because this message of sin and this message of us against God and this message of a wrathful, angry, punishing God, we're going to have to bring all of those beliefs to naught in order for us to evolve into a world. And I may not be here to see it, but why I am alive, I want to contribute to it, because I think the next generation of lives that get to experience humanity, that they don't need to be wrestling with these low vibrational thoughts that you and I and those who are on the broadcast have had to wrestle with. Right. So we are, and I said this, I think last week, I want to say it again this week, Jesus is not the only ascended master. Jesus is not the only person who ascended. I think from the time he was 12 to 30, and we don't see him in the scripture, I think he was away, going through this a religious detox. I think he left this world and he went into another realm of existence. He came back saying, my kingdom is not of this world. So I think he went away to be with his Father, which really is just a higher state of consciousness, right? But he's not the only one that can take that journey of ascension. All 70 people, you and I included, can do the same thing. But the first thing that you got to do, guys, and this is what we're talking about, the subconscious mind, I think everybody needs to study it, because when we see questions like this, and I'm not fussing at anybody, I know my voice, sometimes it sounds fussy, y'all. That's just the mama. Me too. Yeah, that's the mama in me. Don't be offended. I've tried to change it, but I've come to the realization this is just how I am. That's the mama in me. But as long as you guys are seeing things from that perspective, I think that's Spirit's way of trying to show you where you are in your subliminal programming, and you're really not going to be able to get to the next level of consciousness if you don't rewire that line of thinking. And so I want you guys to stop seeing God as us, him against us. And, the Bible is a metaphysical, metaphorical, parabolic book. All right. If you look at it in a literal sense, it can be very, very dangerous. If we look at it literal just for a few minutes, look at it like this. It's a book of writings about people's experiences with what they thought about God, not necessarily what God really was. This might sound a little heretical too. Not Noah, but Adam and Eve, Adam's recollection of God, it's not reality. It's where his vibrational thinking was he sinned in that he forgot who he was in the garden. He had low vibrational thoughts that God's gonna get me, so let me hide. I need y'all to understand, he's having a conversation with his lower selves. We do it all the time.
We do it all.
We talk to ourselves all the time in our ego. We talk that way. And we'll do something wrong, and the first thing you're going to say is, "Oh my God, God's going to get me. Let me hide." Because well, that's what Adam did. So I don't want you guys to read the scriptures and take those things literal, because if you do, it's going to put you in a very bad place in your understanding of God, source, creator. So you got to start looking at the scriptures. Now that we're here, we've evolved away from all of that. We're not in that culture. The Bible is not written to us. If you're going to use the Bible, you have to think about using it as a book of psychology, a book of human development, to teach you how to evolve as a human in this time, space, reality. If you don't approach the Bible like that, you're going to keep drawing these conclusions that, oh my God, this thing happened and God just punished me because he's angry. It's going to keep you stuck, guys.
Yeah. And look, there's so much I want to say based on what you just said. It's already after
I know.
our hour. If y'all want to keep going, y'all just type yes. Do you have time? Mm-hmm. Because do you have time if they want us to keep going for a little while?
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if y'all want us to keep going, y'all just type yes. But there's a couple things that I want to say. And the main thing I want to say is this universal intelligence is absolute love. That is the vibration of that universal intelligence. So when we walk in that love, we are basically walking in the footsteps of our creator, because that's how we were created. That's who we are by nature, is love. So when we sin, right? When we're in church and we sin, we separate ourselves from that love. That love never, ever, ever separates itself from us, but we will turn our head because like Vanessa was talking about with Adam, because we're ashamed and we feel guilt and we think there's a man on a cloud that we've disappointed or we've not pleased him. Let me tell you something. I have 4 children. I don't have 7.8 billion children, but I do have 4 children. And it would be very arrogant of me to think for 1 second that I could love my kids more than the universal intelligence, God, creator, loves me, right, or anybody else. It would be very arrogant for me to think that. And that was one of the biggest messages God gave me as I was going through this journey. Sheryl, who do you think you are that you could love them more than me? I know every hair on their head. Right. And again, I'm talking like I'm hearing a man speak, which is like what I was talking about earlier. It's that introspection. It's hard to go back to to pull back on that. He said, whenever I'm talking about, but whether it's him or whether it's Jesus, not Jesus, the Christ, who is not dead, but is in another dimension, or whether it's the Buddha who's in another dimension, Muhammad who's in another dimension. Some of those ascended masters are speaking to us on a regular basis and trying to bring us to that Christ consciousness so that we can walk in the love that we were created to walk in, and walk in it freely, understanding that it was freely given to us, and we can freely walk in it without having to worry about pleasing a God, because it would be arrogant of me to tell any of my kids, you cannot walk through my door unless you approach me this way or that way. And if you don't do this or that, they're all adults. If you don't live your life this way or that way, then I'm not going to love you. In fact, I'm going to send somebody to your house to burn your house down and torture you for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
What kind of parent would do that? Sorry, I went on a rant.
No, I get it. And just to add to that, and this is the place that I had to get to, with no disrespect to any of our ascended masters, but sometimes I don't even need to hear that from Jesus.
No, right.
Sometimes I don't need to hear it from Buddha or angel.
That's right.
I have a mind,
And
my higher self.
That's right.
God has placed the DNA that the Spirit of God holds within the universe, has been placed inside of all of us. And we can hear those messages on our own as well, guys. And so we want to see the universe. We want to see everybody evolve into this higher state of awareness. And so you really need to think about your beliefs and your belief systems and the thoughts that you hold true, and be willing to evaluate and examine them. And you may have to toss some of them out.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. TA, you said when you were born again, you never experienced God as a hard God, but a God of love. And your only disagreement is with the way that the church represents him. And this is why ultimately I left the church, because I could not reconcile the love that I would experience when I was in communion with God through meditation or prayer. I could not reconcile that God with that God at church that will send people to hell because they were baptized with the wrong words.
Right.
Couldn't do it.
It makes no sense
No.
whatsoever.
None.
I had someone leave my church years ago because they didn't like the way I baptized, and they didn't feel, and they were so serious. They didn't feel like they were saved, and they thought they were going to still go to heaven because I didn't baptize them in Jesus' name. So it's all of these idioms and all of these low vibrational thoughts and beliefs that don't have any merit or any shred of truth to them, that's really caused us to be misguided, and it's caused us to miss the mark, which really, if there is such a thing as sin, it's missing the mark of who we really are.
That's exactly right. That's what it means, right?
That's what it means, literally.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean doing bad stuff. It means missing the mark of your identity.
Right. Okay, so somebody wants to know, Nina Vasquez, is God Jesus' father or is God Jesus? I've always been confused with that since I was younger. Do you want to address that? Because I can. I'll be happy to.
You can address it, and I'll add to it. It doesn't matter. I can go first.
Add to it. Yeah. We can both
tell you how I feel about it. I don't know that anybody is 100% right or wrong about any of this stuff.
I agree. None of us really know.
We really don't know, as long as we're confined to 3D the 3D dimension. Who really knows? But I'll tell you what I believe in my heart. Because again, I'm going to teach a course on this, and so I no longer believe in this deity that I've worshipped for almost all of my adult life. So for me, I don't believe that there's, God in three persons thing. I don't believe in the Trinity anymore, because that's what I once believed. I thought that Yahweh was God the Father, and that Yahweh was the Father of Jesus. That's what I thought.
Yahweh and Yeshua, yeah.
And Yeshua, Yahweh and Yeshua. I thought they, and then there was parts of me that thought that they were all the same, but three identities. I'm telling you, just psychotic. All these beliefs drove me crazy. Today, I believe that the Father is, again, this creative energy source. For me, that's the Father. This high dimension of infinite intelligence that created the universe. Love is the Father for me. Jesus is just one of the many sons that love gave birth to.
Yes.
Jesus was begotten of love, just like you and I were begotten of love.
Yes. Yes.
I'm still processing what Holy Spirit means to me. For me, Holy Spirit is spirit. And I say Holy Spirit because I believe that spirit is sacred. And I believe that the Spirit of God is holy, quote unquote. I believe it's sacred. So, but I don't believe in this sort of three-person entity called God anymore. Right. That makes sense.
Right. And so basically we have the same belief. I believe that God, the ultimate source of all creation, is an energy, universal intelligence, love. I believe Jesus walked the face of the earth. He was conceived and born of love, just like each of us were. And that he walked the face of the earth as a mere mortal, just like us, until this is where those stories with those gaps. She gave you the one that she thinks he was out. Vanessa gave you the one where she thinks he was out getting his spirit mojo on, right? So, but in my mind, he was being rebellious, probably goofing off like anybody. I'm serious, running around, being a menace,
a regular person,
just a regular person,
just a regular man,
right? And he was feeling guilty because he really loved his mom, so he's feeling guilty. So he decided. Actually, I heard this version of it, so I'm not making it up in my head. I heard this version of it in something called Christ's Letters, and I thought, well, that sounds real, and that he was having some problems with himself because of the way he was hurting his mom. So like most guys today, women today, whenever we're in our 20s or whatever, mom's like, God, you got to get back in church, you backsliding. So he heard John was baptizing in the river. So he went and met John, and he said whenever he had that baptism, he thought he was just going to go get baptized and then be a good boy. But he went and got baptized and had a very supernatural experience. And this is all from Christ's Letters. So y'all can
I've read that. I've read the Christ Letters.
So he leaves from there because he's so wilded out about this experience. And he goes out into the desert for 40 days, 6 weeks. And it's like what is that stuff they drink? People go drink ayahuasca. It's like he had an ayahuasca experience without the ayahuasca, where he started seeing, he had these spiritual revelations about that there's nothing solid, and he could see the energy moving in the rocks, and he could see the energy moving everywhere. And it's like God gave him a revelation, universal intelligence gave him a revelation about all this stuff that Vanessa's talking about, the subconscious mind and science, and how all that stuff works together. And so he couldn't wait to come back and teach it to the people he knew, because he knew it could better their lives. And whenever it says he was tempted in the desert, where Satan said, you want to eat, turn that stone into bread or whatever. He talks about that too. And again, this is just another version, but it sounds sounds very real. Where he said,
nobody really knows.
Nobody really knows.
Nobody really knows. And I think part of where I'm at in my walk, my personal walk. This is my personal walk. This is gonna sound kind of harsh. I don't really care.
No, it doesn't matter.
Because it really doesn't matter, because I feel like this is Vanessa. I feel like Jesus's work has been done. And I think it's our responsibility to now determine what our own personal work is. What is your life mission? What is your life's purpose? I think we've spent so much time trying to hash out Jesus's life and try to relive his life. And I don't think that's what we're supposed to be doing at all. Well, I don't think Jesus even told us to do that. I don't think it really matters. I think you're here and I'm here and all these viewers are here, and we need to be accomplishing we need to be doing the will of our Father like Jesus did.
Right. Okay. So, but let me say something about that. And this is
okay.
We might differ a little bit, but that's okay.
That's okay.
Of me. But it's not that we necessarily have to know what he's doing, but like he was my first love. And so there's still part of me that thinks, I know that he's more like a brother or a mentor for me, that if I get stuck and I feel like I can't communicate with spirit, that he can act as a guide, and I can say, hey, Jesus,
sure,
help me out here. But to be able to do that, I have to separate him from what I was taught about him.
Exactly.
And I have to be able to understand him as more real, which for me is what he is, more real. He's more like you and me. He's not a deity. He even said, in the Bible. Why are you calling me good? There's only one good. It's
There's
my
only one, and that's our Father.
Yeah.
Jesus never wanted to be a deity. Jesus never asked to be worshipped. That's religion did that. And I think, but by that same token, I'm just as fascinated by the work of Buddha. So there are times that I am more inspired to read the writings of Buddha than I am. And I love Jesus too. That was my, 20 years ago, I was called a heretic because I preached Jesus too much for people. I didn't like the Old Testament. I never preached out of the Old Testament. I didn't like it. It didn't feel right to me. I think I was awakening all that time and just didn't know it. So I absolutely fell in love with Jesus.
Right.
But even Jesus said in the Gospels, he said to the disciples, I must go away. It's expedient for you that I go away, because if I don't go away, if you don't let me go away, then the Comforter can't come. Right. The Holy Spirit can't come, and the Holy Spirit is going to lead you into all truth. Right. And so for me, I had to let Jesus go in terms of worshiping him as my Lord and Savior and worshiping him as this deity and this idol, because I found out for my personal self, I really hadn't allowed the Comforter to come, because I wouldn't let Jesus go in the true sense of understanding that he came to walk this earth to fulfill a purpose, but I have to fulfill mine too. And so do all of us. But that doesn't mean that I don't read the writings and the teachings of Christ, because I'm not the writings, because he didn't write anything that we know of. But I do read the teachings of Christ. But again, I also read the teachings of Buddha and Krishna, and I just don't want to see people get stuck in that cycle of religion, because their subconscious mind cannot release Jesus from being the savior, because a lot of those concepts have been poorly misinterpreted by religion, just grossly misinterpreted by religion. So but I love Jesus, y'all.
Yes, and there's a whole lot of study out there that talks about the way that the Bible was put together. And I'm just going to say this, because again, 30 years in the church, and I love God. Like TA said, my biggest problem was being able to reconcile the God that I would experience with the God I was hearing about. So with that said, man, we've been on an hour and a half, so we're gonna have to say sorry, but guys, I love y'all so much, and I don't ever want anybody to feel like we would I am grateful for my experience in the church.
Me too.
It introduced me to God, and it introduced me to Jesus, and it gave me some very good boundaries at a time in my life that I needed the boundaries.
Me too.
We all go through different parts of our journey at different times, and if you're here tonight and you feel offended in any way by anything that Vanessa or I have said, please know that is not our intention. Normally in these types of situations, whenever we're doing lives like this, we trust that the right people are going to be here, that the people who need this message are going to be here, because there are other people like us who are leaving that religious indoctrination and walking into a different kind of relationship with God and Jesus. And we struggle. It's like we all need to hold each other's hand as we walk forward.
Yeah.
So if
and let me say this too before I go. Okay. For whoever is watching now or who will watch this later,
yes,
we're not discrediting the entire experience at all. This is what I believe about God. God meets us. And I was driving today, and this is what the Spirit said to me, because we get into this new thought movement and we get really deep sometimes, and we talk about consciousness and awakening. I kind of got rebuked by Spirit today. And Spirit said to me, be careful how you use the word awakening.
Yes.
And be careful how you use the word consciousness. Because if you're not careful, it can come across as degrading to other people. Because if we're not careful, this is what he said to me, if you're not careful, you're going to still be religious, even in your new thought. You don't want to create a culture where there's still us against them. So Spirit said to me, there's really no such thing as an awakening. And I know a lot of folks don't want to hear that because it's a popular term. I'll probably still use it. But this is what Spirit said to me. He said, everybody is conscious.
Yes.
There's degrees to consciousness. Yeah. So when I was in church and you were in church, we were not asleep. We were awakened then. But Spirit, and I'm using this metaphorically, came down to meet us at our level of consciousness. Always. And for me, if that meant preaching, if that meant holding altar calls, if that meant me praying and travailing and all this stuff, if that's what it took for me or you or whoever that's watching to have a relationship with God, then we don't need to completely discredit that. So I don't want to ever make anybody think that I'm discrediting, because if I discredit you, that means I'm discrediting my own experiences.
That's right.
And I refuse to believe that I sat in church all those years and none of those experiences were real. I don't believe that for one moment.
They were all real.
Yeah, they were very real. Based on my level of consciousness, they were real.
Right. And I'm going to tell y'all this too, and then we're going to have to shut it off. I'll let you say some closing words before we shut it off. But I do want to say this. Last night I did a video about our identity crisis. And I think the same is true here. You know, there's a lot of people who have, for whatever reason, could not reconcile and cannot reconcile the God that we experience with the God in the church. So we're in an identity crisis. Yeah. Okay. And so we have, and there are people, well, last night I was relating it to my job. I'm constantly, looking for, I'm curious. I'm driven by, I like the way that one lady said it. I'm curious. I'm driven by adventure and curiosity and honesty and, knowledge, wanting to know more, wanting to go deeper. But there are those people who are happy to be in their job for 25, 30 years, right, the same place, doing the same thing. And guess what? They are needed. They are needed in those places, because I can have a great idea about building this brand new fan that doesn't need to be plugged in, but I need those people who work 30 years in that same place to build it and produce it and put it out. So everybody is on a different journey and at a different place, and everybody's needed. Those people, if you're still in church and you're at least bit offended, please know, I know you're needed where you are.
You need it.
There's people out there that they need you to be praying for them. They need you to be laying your hands on them and
absolutely
calling down the glory of God and all that stuff.
Yeah,
and everything that we're
keep doing it.
That's right.
If you don't feel a release, because I didn't feel a release 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I felt like I was where I was supposed to be. Keep doing that. But by that same token, the church has to also honor the fact that there is an evolution,
right, going on,
and that some people will be cycled out of that.
Right.
Because I need to reach these people that are on your video tonight. I wouldn't have reached those people in the church if I was still in the church.
Right.
So these are potentially new people that I and you get a chance to at least serve in a different way. So that we have to honor each other. The church has to honor those of us who've left, and those of us who've left have to honor those who choose to stay, because it's 8 billion people that all of us are trying to reach.
To live together and love together.
Yes.
There's 8 billion of us, and everybody's got a different path and a different way to communicate with spirit, with source, with God, or whoever it is that we work with.
That's right.
I love y'all so much. There was something I seemed like I wanted to say. Watch out for the next couple days. I don't know when, because he hadn't told me yet, but Kelly from the True Good News is going to be back on. And remember, this guy does intensive Bible studies where he pulls out the words and the meanings, and he digs deep into the etymology of them. Is that the right word? Etymology of all, and brings them in a different way than what than what we understand when we're reading it.
Can I tell them about the course real quick? I forgot.
That's what I want to ask you. Yeah, are we doing it this weekend?
No.
Oh,
The course, listen, guys.
this is for
February-
seers, psychics, and prophets.
Seers, psychics, and prophets, decoding the sacred text, February 23rd, online. Let me give you the curriculum highlights. We're going to discuss who, what is God, which we've talked about a little bit tonight. We're going to go a little bit deeper, though. We're going to actually decode some of these sacred texts. It's going to get a little bit deep, and it's going to challenge your belief system. So we're going to talk about some of these deities and what they really are. We're going to talk about how to activate the single eye, because this is for prophets, and a lot of the prophets, especially those that are in traditional church, they probably don't even know what the single eye is and how to activate it, which limits your ability to see in the realm of the spirit. We're going to talk about we're going to hit the subconscious mind some, and we're going to talk about angels, dimensions, and planes, right?
Okay.
Because we have all of this stuff in other dimensions and on other planes that we need to be familiar with, so we can get messages. So if you guys are interested, the full rate is $99. But if you email me at ladyceo@vanessaRbrooks.com and tell me that you heard about the course on Sheryl's Spirit Mail show, then I'm going to give you a huge discount. I forgot what I said, $75?
$75, yeah.
So you get $25 off if you mention Sheryl's name or Spirit Mail. Thank y'all.
Yes. Okay, guys. And listen, again, thank y'all so much for being here. I love these live conversations. I love y'all's comments in the feed. And I wish I was better at doing that, but I'm not. But I love going back and reading them all.
I think you do work with that.
If y'all decide to, if you have a question that we didn't answer and you really, really want to know, email me at spiritmailtarot@gmail.com or email Vanessa at ladyceo@gmail.
At VanessaRbrooks.com.
ladyceo@vanessaRbrooks.com. Email one of us or both of us. Email both of us the same question and let us answer it for you. But I love you guys so much. We'll be back next Thursday night. We're going to have our first skeleton meeting. Is that what you called it?
Yep, our first planning meeting.
Where we're going to plan our event. Because we want to get everybody together, because whenever we get all the energy in the room, great things happen. That's just how it works. But I love y'all so much, and we will talk to y'all next Thursday night, me and Vanessa, or Vanessa and I together. And we look forward to seeing you then. Bye, everybody.
Good night. Love you, Sheryl.
Love you too very much. I think I learned how to end the live stream. Bye, y'all.